Hello and welcome to Stylist Chats with Creatives. Today on the podcast, I'm speaking to Ben Broom. Ben's a food stylist and cook, and we first met in a studio in Leeds, shooting for a big supermarket's Christmas campaign. And there was many a turkeys painted.
There was many a turkeys painted. Too many to count, I would say.
Were you on the set with loads of turkeys? There was just like 2 days back-to-back turkeys.
I did. We had a full day of turkey. There was one turkey shot that didn't get approved by the end of the day, and then we had to go back to it in the morning, which was very fun. I think that happened with someone else as well on a different set. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, turkey extravaganza.
Oh, there were so many bits of meat.
Oh God, yeah, lots of meat. Too much meat.
Well, welcome to the podcast. It's lovely to have you on.
Thank you very much.
It's nice to chat to a food stylist because, like we were just saying, I've not had a food stylist on yet.
I'm honoured to be the first food stylist on the podcast.
I'll send you a little sticker.
I'll put it on my kit.
Yes. So, how did you get into food styling? Because it's such a niche job, and I think not many people used to realise that it was a job. I certainly didn't. Yeah. I'd watch like the M&S food adverts and be like, "Whoa, this looks amazing!" Not even twig that somebody's had to make the turkey look incredible. Yeah. So, how did you get into it?
I was really lucky, actually. My mum's a food stylist, Sally Broom. I'll plug her in as well if anyone needs another food stylist. Yeah. So it was when I was in college. I was only 18. I was doing business in college 4 days a week, and my mum was working. She was freelance, but pretty much exclusively working in Iceland because they do all their stuff in house. And I just started going in on my days off, helping her out. And I was interested in food when I was quite young. I was like 13, 14. But I don't know, when you're at that age, you don't really want to do what your mum does, do you? So, so I went in with no intention of becoming a food stylist and kind of just started getting into it, started enjoying it more, started getting friendly with all the people there. And then they ended up giving me the odd, junior. They paid me on a freelance basis, but a massively junior rate, just on easy jobs. And then they ended up giving me a full-time role as a junior food stylist. And then, went from there.
Nice. That's actually really good to get a junior role so you can kind of get the feel for it before you go off doing freelance or whatever else, isn't it?
Yeah, it was perfect, to be fair. It was very handy. Because, I mean, they do cover a wide spectrum of shoots as well. I mean, they shoot everything. So, and because it's in-house, you're working with the same people all the time, so you get comfortable with those people. And if something goes tits up, then there's always next week to reshoot it. It's not like they're paying you on a freelance basis, and if everything goes wrong, then it's all gone wrong. So it was a relieved pressure from a 18, 19-year-old me, very scared going into the working world.
Yeah, that's cool that you went straight in, like that you had that opportunity to work alongside your mum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was very good. I mean, she tells me every day that she taught me everything I know. So what can I say? And I mean, there's an argument that she's probably true. She's probably right as well. So.
Well, I mean, she's done a good job because I've seen your food styling and it's incredible. So, you know.
Much. I'll tell her that. Well, she'll probably listen. So shout out to my mum, Sally Broom.
So over the past few years, what's been your favourite thing to style?
That's a good question. I feel like that question is like asking a chef though, what's their favourite thing to cook, and it changes all the time. there's I can give you things I really don't like shooting. That's probably easier. Lasagna is one. I think every food stylist hates styling lasagna because it's just an absolute faff, pain in the arse. And I think every food stylist hates doing sandwiches as well. I think I don't know what it is, but it is not the most enjoyable thing to style. I've always been quite good at steaks and things like that. I think you're always better at styling things that you like cooking and like eating. So yeah, I've always preferred doing the more editorial, chefy kind of shoots, but I think everyone prefers doing stuff like that. But unfortunately, usually you don't. Usually it's like super gluing bits of meat together for a packaging shot or things like that. But, you know.
I saw the amount of pins in super glue, and then when the dog was like sniffing around, I was like, please don't eat that.
Yeah, I love studio dogs, but at the same time I'm very scared when we have studio dogs because most of the things, if they attempt to eat it, it will kill them. So
Yeah, yeah. It's like when Indy stole, was it 10 tempura prawns off a set?
oh my god, yeah,
And they'd been on set all night as well.
yeah,
I think they were set up ready for the next day.
yeah.
And I was like, no wonder why she's got a bad tummy.
Well, she is lucky that there wasn't any super glue or pins or colouring of any sorts involved.
Oh, God, yeah. And then I lost Coco. I brought Coco in and I lost Coco, and she was like behind your island flirting with you for some turkey.
She was doing laps around the island, like waiting for waiting for something. I'm a sucker as well. If I get the puppy eyes off a dog, I'm like, oh fuck's sake, go on then. You can have something. I'll find something that isn't deadly.
Yeah. It's funny because Coco's so good on set because she just knows not to go near it. But then she'll like sit and dribble, and you're like, I know the turkey smells good.
Turkey smells good. Probably doesn't taste good at this point.
Yeah, it's probably, you can probably just eat the skin, maybe. Oh, well, lasagna, and going back to your lasagna and sandwiches thing that you don't enjoy doing, what is it, the layering that's just difficult to nail?
I think that, well, do you know what? Yeah, the layering, I think lasagna is the added part of cheese. Anything that has a time frame to it is always more tricky because, anything that'll sit on set for ages and not really change, you don't have to, do a million versions of it, is always easier. So anything with a cheese pull and things like that always becomes more tricky. I mean, they can look great, but, usually when you get the ones that look great, it's because you've spent at least half a day just doing that one shot to get it looking perfect, because it's like just doing loads of takes of it. But yeah, I think the layer inside of it can be just a faff. It becomes very fiddly, I think. I mean, we did a lasagna show. Were you on it, Elise? I think you were, weren't you?
Yeah.
And I actually didn't mind doing that. I think as long as you've got time for it and they haven't crammed a load of other shots in on the same day, then it's fine. But it is just time consuming.
I think that's it. I think the consumer also doesn't realise how much time, and sometimes the client as well, how much time each thing can take to style, because likewise, like you, there's certain things that take me longer to get in shot to make retouchers' lives easier as well, down the line. And you just have to take your time with stuff. You can't, not everything's as easy as like just flinging something on set.
Yeah, well, it's weird. It's like I'll have some clients that want me to do 20 shots in a day, and then like the job that we were on, we were doing 1 or 2 in a day. So it's like that. It really depends on who the client is for me, and whether they. I mean, I prefer doing less amount, spending a long time on each shot and getting it looking banging, as opposed to quantity over quality, which it does kind of get to that at some points. If they want 20 shots in a day, then they're not going to look as nice as the 2 shots that you would do in a day for a different client.
Yeah. It's massive when people go, oh, you need to rally through, and then they're like, oh, it doesn't look quite as good as this shot, and they'll show you their mood board, and their mood board's full of like magazine shots, and you're like,
yeah,
well, obviously they've
probably spent a day just doing that shot, and then it's had a load of retouch after it as well, and then they're looking at like an uncolour graded version on some like uncolour matched screen. It's like, well, it's not actually going to look like this in the as the final image.
Yeah, I explained to my other half about screens needing like colour matching and stuff, because I was saying to you earlier, my phone broke, and then I used the spare phone, and the colour difference on the phones on the screens was insane. Yeah. One was like really orange. You looked at the dog and she looked like a pumpkin on one phone, and she looked like normal tan on the other. And he's like, "Oh yeah, Jesus!" Yeah. Like, this is where like clients go like, "Oh, I'm just looking at it on my phone," and you're like, "Oh, please."
I know, but that's where they'll ping it into a WhatsApp group, and it just like absolutely butchers the image, basically, doesn't it? And it looks nothing like what it will. And especially when you're looking at things in such fine detail, it's like that makes such a big difference, where it's just the colour's completely off. Because then they could say, "Oh, we want whatever it is." If you say a turkey, for example, we want the colour of the turkey to be darker. It's like, well, in the final, you've just got the complete wrong colour in the final image. You probably won't want it to be any darker. But then they could ask you to do that. You can darken it up, and then they get the final image, and once it's being colour graded and everything, like, oh, that looks a bit dark now. So, yeah, because you didn't see the real image basically when you were approving it.
Yeah. And I think also it depends on where the image goes within advertising, whether it's in print, because newspapers butcher, it's just not as fine printed as a high-end magazine, or it's not as good as being on websites. Some websites compress images, and like there's so much to it. And like you say, when they're not seeing, I understand why agencies use the WhatsApp method, because it's quicker.
Yeah.
Everyone can see it. But then it's remembering that they're seeing it compressed in a tiny image, when actually, like you say, once it's been through retouch as well, and everyone's picked up the bits that they need touching up or whatever, it's a completely different image as well on the end.
I think it always helps if you have at least one person, either from the client or from an agency, there on set, because it's so different to see things on set and how things are working and what it takes to change things while you're on set, as opposed to being on the other end of a phone. And even like the kind of the vibe and the feeling in the studio at the time, it always helps to have someone there. I think, like, whenever I'm on a job and the client doesn't turn up and we just send the stuff over WhatsApp, it always tends to be a trickier day.
Yeah. And I think, like you say, sometimes people go, can you just do this? And you're like, that can you just isn't a 10-minute job, it's an hour.
Yeah. That happens. So that doesn't matter whether the client's there or not. That just always happens.
Yeah. It's the sentence that I always dread. I'm like, no.
Yeah, no.
Like, you can, but it's going to take me time.
Yeah, you can, but you can scratch one of those 20 shots off the list for today.
Yeah, at least one.
Yeah.
It's always the way. It's like, I think your job's so interesting because it's kind of a lot of smoke and mirrors as well. You're similar to me. There's certain things that, like, if people zoomed out of an image, there's bits of blue tack holding a little bit of a plate up, and there's a pin behind a turkey's leg, and there's all these other intricacies that I think people don't even think that are there.
Yeah. Or the tampon shoved in something that's been soaked in boiling water to get some steam going. I love it. I know we've just spent the last 10 minutes or whatever slating it, but I do love my job. I think it's brilliant. Because I love photography as well. So it's like, I love food, I love photography. It literally combines my two favourite things together. So yeah, I do feel very lucky actually that I had the opportunity to do it, because not many people have a mum who's a food stylist and has that in. And because it's so competitive, not many of the food stylists want to teach you anything or help you out. Although most food stylists are really nice and helpful. But I mean, I'm the same. I don't want to teach everyone like different stuff that I do, because everyone's competition really, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that's a really difficult line to walk on, because I've had junior stylists ask me stuff and I'm like, I can show you to a certain extent, but then over that line, it's my knowledge that I've built up.
Yeah.
So it's like not gatekeeping, but also being picky about what you're showing to other people. Because also we've all got 10 different ways to get to the same end. And sometimes you go on a journey of all 10 things to get the same image that someone would just do once.
Yeah. That's what I've loved since going freelance is just working with so many different people and seeing how different people approach different tasks. And like you say, I mean, that you can end up almost the exact same outcome, but there's 10 different ways to do it. And I mean, not just working with different food stylists, working with different photographers as well, and learning how they operate with their light and how they like to light things. And I mean, they could light a shot that looks exactly the same as another photographer, but they could have an extra 6 lights on it or something, or 10 polyboards around there or something. So I love like just learning how everyone approaches things and trying to take bits without probing them too much.
Yeah, that's the kind of delicate dance I think that we all do. And like, even when you're styling, you can take stuff from somebody else's like job and be like, oh, okay, next time I'm working with somebody else, I might attach I think it was Rue put like bottles on a stand and, had his light shining through like just creating different shadows. And then you're like, oh, okay, I can use that that's banked for another day.
Yeah.
Or, you know, Tom using different bits of cardboard that have got different cutouts to create different shadows and things. And I think also that's a creative mind, right? Where you're always like learning off somebody else.
Yeah. But the thing is that they will have learned that off someone else. It's like a long, I mean, I'm sure they kind of develop it in their own way, but everyone learns something from somewhere, don't they, I suppose? Yeah. So it's just about, you got to be a sponge, haven't you? And taking as much as you can.
Oh, yeah. And I think that doesn't stop, like, regardless of like how long you've been in the industry, or, you know, because it's an evolution, isn't it, of your skill and honing in of things that you really love doing, things that you could be better at, or, you know, it's nice to learn off other people, I think.
Yeah. But I think it's nice as well because, I mean, you've got a lot more experience than I have, but you're always still learning, aren't you? There's always stuff to learn. And especially in our industry, because there's trends and things change every month, don't they? Never mind every year. So there's always a new thing to keep up with, isn't there?
Yeah. And I think as well, working in a team where everybody's willing to learn something off each other, you collaborate better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because like I came to you with for example, the lasagna, I had to send the studio assistant out to go and get little plates because we just didn't have anything the same size. Yeah. And then I can come and show you, like, what do you think? Show the photographer what's going to shoot the best. And you just kind of got to work together. Like, I can say what I think, but it might make what you're doing look hideous, or what the photographer's doing make their job harder. And it's all about making the job easier for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the best thing is just to try and communicate every little thing as you're going through the job, because it just saves time as well. I mean, if you discuss, like you were saying about the plates, if I show you the size of the lasagna, we look through plates together, and then you can pick out things that you look nice, then we can try it on there. If we do all this before we show the client, then you're just saving time instead of me spending an hour styling this lasagna perfectly on a plate that we haven't already sent to the client or we weren't already sure about. And then it's like, oh yeah, we're going to have to redo that now. It's like, probably should have thought about that beforehand, kind of thing.
That's it. It's about being like efficient with the use of your time, isn't it? And with the skills that everybody else has, and pulling stuff. Because also working with Rue, he's got an eye for plates and things like that as well. And you just kind of go, you've got to just be collaborative. And I think that's where you then get the best shots out of people, when everybody's working as a team.
I think it's quite nice. I mean, obviously, you know, everyone's there for their own reasons. Like, I have food knowledge, you have prop knowledge, Rue has photography knowledge, or Tom, whoever. But I think when you get the best results is when everyone starts to cross over slightly, and you can kind of confidently speak to each other about each other's areas of expertise, and, you know, have your say and give input and stuff like that, and be able to take it on board. And I think that always helps with the shoot massively. Yeah.
And I think not taking stuff personally as well helps hugely.
Which can be tricky. Some people are better at it than others, I think.
Yeah. And it can be like, I mean, I've had times where someone's been like, well, this is shit, and I've been like, crying off in the toilet.
I think it depends what time of the day it is and how tricky the day's been. So if it's 5 o'clock, everything's gone tits up all day and you're having a shocker, then the tiniest little insult, you're like, oh, I need to go home now.
I need my mum. Yeah, you said that's so right. And I think also, like, when you're doing a really long or big campaign as well, it's just remembering who you've got to make happy within that. Yeah. Like, for us, it was the client, because it's going across the board. It was going on, like, was it going on shelves and stuff, as well as like point of sales and all sorts. So you've got to make the client happy across the board. And once you take your personal judgment out of it, it just makes it easier, because you're like, well, I mean, I like the chair in there, but I'm not going to cry that it's not going to be in there.
The client's always right. I think that is the most important thing to remember. Client's always right. Even if they're wrong, they're right.
Yeah. Because eventually, even if they're wrong, eventually they'll realise that they're wrong and it'll get reshot anyway.
Yeah. And then you get more work.
Yeah, it's like win-win for us. So how long have you been freelance for?
Coming up 3 years now, I think. So yeah, I did four. I think it was 3 or 4 years at Iceland, and then coming up 3 years freelance now.
Nice. And you're in North Wales, aren't you? So you commute up to Manchester, Leeds,
Yes,
and all
I
that
mean
kind of area.
I love living in North Wales, and I hate living in North Wales. I mean, like it. I grew up here, and it's beautiful, and it's great for photography. I'm not too far from Sardinia, great for hiking. And then I have a job in Leeds, and I have to drive 2 hours to get to work, at least, depending on what the M62 is like, which is usually awful. But yeah, at some point I will be moving closer to work. I'll probably be moving closer to Manchester, so that it only an hour then to get back home, back into Wales, and then obviously very close to Manchester, and then only an hour to travel to Leeds.
Yeah.
But yeah, the commute is a killer at the moment, I have to say.
Yeah, it's I'm still adjusting to the commute, and I'm in like the middle of in between Manchester and Leeds, and it depends on the day whether the kids are in on school holidays or not.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I've whizzed into work and it's 45 minutes, and then the next day they're all back to school, and you're like, why does this take me 2 hours?
No, it's so hard to predict, really, especially going to Leeds. But it's weird. It's like even like Tuesdays can be bad, and you can have like a month where every Tuesday just seems to be like take 20% longer than every other day to get to work. It's like, why? Why is this happening? It's not even, you can't even explain it.
Yeah, it's just like, get off the road, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm more important. I need to get to work.
To be fair, I've kind of just got used to it now. It doesn't feel that bad. I mean, like, it's funny because when I was working in Leeds loads and then I had a job in Manchester, it's like, oh, I've only got an hour's commute to work now. Like, that was like 5 minutes down the road kind of thing.
Yeah. I feel you when stuff's like, for me, when it's in Wakefield, I'm like, brilliant. It's a 40-minute drive. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, and it's so close to Leeds, and I'm like, why does it take me another 40 minutes?
Oh, I know that, especially if you're going into Leeds city centre, then the traffic getting in there in the morning, it's just a nightmare, isn't it? And driving through Leeds, you take one wrong turn in, and suddenly you've added like 20 minutes onto your journey because you're like back on the ring road and you have to go all the way around it again or something. And I hate driving through Leeds city centre. It's a nightmare.
Me too. The amount of times I've ended up near like the shopping centre and I've been like, why am I here again? This isn't where I need to be.
Oh, God. Yeah, like the M62 wasn't stressful enough, then I have to get into Leeds city centre and drive through that as well.
Yeah. I remember doing a job years ago. It was probably a 6 or 8 week long job, and I was living in Manchester, commuting over to Leeds, and once a week there'd be an accident on the 62. And I'd just be like, I set off at 6 o'clock in the morning to get there for 9. And sometimes I still won't make it for like 10.
Yeah.
I'm just going to turn around and go home.
Yeah. The M62 is an unpredictable beast, I would say.
Yeah, massively. So how are you finding being self-employed? I know we had a little brief chat before we recorded about the ebbs and flows of workflow when you're self-employed, and kind of having moments where you're months, even when you're really busy, and then months where it's dry as well.
Yep.
How are you finding that roller coaster? Because it's wild, isn't it?
It's all or nothing, isn't it? It's either you're absolutely chocker and you can't get a day off to save your life, or there's just nothing and it completely dries up. But yeah, I mean, as we were saying, it's kind of trying to enjoy the time that you have off and make the most of the time that you have in, kind of thing. And almost, I mean, the cash flow can be tricky, especially when clients want to take longer than a month to pay you. Almost try and look at it as like an annual wage instead of a monthly wage, because you can have that month where you're super busy and you're looking at how much money you've earned, you think this is great, I'm loaded, and then you have nothing the next month. You're like, oh shit, I probably shouldn't have spent that much money last month. So yeah, it's taken a bit of time to get used to. I think I have gotten used to it now, but yeah, it's definitely tricky. I don't think people who are full-time kind of understand how it works almost. I think they see your day rate and they're like, wow, you earn so much money. And like, yeah, but I don't work 5 days a week, every week.
Yeah. that's the difficult thing, I think, is like finding the amount of days average over the year that you're happy to work, and that then, like you say, dividing it by 12 months.
Yeah.
And it turns out probably that you earn similar to what, for me, like an interior stylist full time would work, but I'm working less.
Yeah.
And then out of your day rate, you've still got to take your tax and national insurance, and you don't get sick pay, holiday pay, and things like that as well. So there's a lot added up in that day rate, and also there's experience too.
Mm. But I think, I mean, there's pros and cons to it, isn't there? But I mean, for me, I don't think I could go back to full time work now. I think for me the pros do outweigh the cons. I just like having the freedom. I mean, like doing the obviously, because went away, didn't I, for the past 2 winters to France to do the ski season, working in a chalet. And if I was full time, then I never would have been able to do that. So I like having the freedom to be like, right, well, if I want to go somewhere for a month, then I can go somewhere for a month.
Yeah, I think that's the nice thing as well, isn't it? Like, and being able to do things like this, or having days where you're like, right, I need to go get my hair cut, I need to go see the physio, do X, Y, Z. And you can have those days off without having to ask somebody else, can I take that day?
Yeah.
But yeah, how was the time in France, your ski seasons? What was that like?
So good. It was so good. You kind of like pinch yourself, when just living there is just amazing. I was in Morzine in France, which is, I think it's the second biggest ski area in the world, after the Three Valleys, which is also in France. Because as I was saying before, two favourite things, food and photography, mixing them together. Well, another favourite thing, skiing. So food and skiing, mixing them together was just as good.
Yeah.
It was really hard work. We worked for quite a high-end chalet company, so we did everything from scratch. So made our own stock, made our own pasta, everything was from scratch. So we were working a lot. It wasn't all glitz and glam, and it was very stressful at some times. But so worth it, so worth it.
Would you do another one?
Yes.
Yeah. I love you didn't even think then, it just came straight out. Yeah.
Yes.
Get me there.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I did it with my girlfriend, and I mean, it is very stressful. I think we couldn't do it every winter because it definitely has a toll on your mental and physical well-being. I mean, I think it's worth it, but I think doing it every winter would be quite a lot because you don't stop. I mean, if you're not working, you're skiing. If you're not skiing, then you're out somewhere. You're up. You start work, but you basically have a morning and an evening shift. So you start early in the morning, but then you'll finish and kind of have midday off, which is you can go skiing or do whatever. And then you have your evening shift, so you end up finishing work late as well. So, it's like early starts, late finishes. So it's full on. I mean, both seasons when I've got back, the kind of first month, I've just any free time I've had, I've just slept. It's like your body just comes back to normality, and you just massively crash and spend loads of time sleeping. But yeah, it's amazing. Again, because I love photography as well, and landscape photography, and being in the mountains, it's like you can't take a bad photo there. It's like it makes it easy almost.
It's different kind of mountains to what we have.
Yeah.
Here, even to what you've got in Wales. It's like completely, on a different kind of scale.
Yeah, but I was like, it's not even like going to a different country, it's like being on a different planet. I mean, you stood 2,500 meters up on a mountain, and there's helicopters below you and clouds below you, and yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. I feel like it's like my second home there now, especially in Morzine, because that's where we started going on ski holidays, so I was kind of familiar with it anyway. And when you're doing something like a ski season, you kind of have to, it's not just how good the skiing is, you have to take into consideration the quality of living there, what the town's actually like. Morzine's just brilliant. I'd love to get, the dream is to one day get an apartment there and rent it out and just spend a bit of time there every winter.
Oh, that'd be so nice.
That's the dream. Although, as you can imagine, properties and ski resorts aren't particularly cheap.
Best get working, mate.
Yeah, no, yeah. Let's get that marketing head on, and I.
Well, that leads us on to talking about being self-employed and marketing yourself, because I was just saying to you that I've started to schedule out my posts and stuff on my social media for my work and across LinkedIn and stuff. And you were saying to me that you relax a little bit with it. You're not as, you're probably in between me and the other person we were talking about who's marketing, like got a day where they do all their marketing. Yeah. It's quite hard to juggle, isn't it?
It is tricky. I mean, I've never been good at marketing, even though I did business in college. That's never my strong point. I've definitely a creative and at heart, and that's where I lie, kind of thing. Yeah, it is tricky. I think there's different ways to approach it, isn't there? You can put all your spare time into it and try as much as you can, and you probably will get positive results from it. But then at the same time, I quite like to enjoy some time off as well and do things that I want to do. That's part of the beauty of being self-employed. I think for me, it's finding a line where, you know, you're getting the most out of yourself without pushing yourself too hard, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I always found it's like, how much time am I putting into it and how much am I getting back out? Yeah. There needs to be a balance there, because if you're spending a lot of time on your social media interacting with stuff all the time, it can make it, I don't know about you, it brings out the like green-eyed monster for me. I'm like, oh, but they've got loads of work and they're doing all this. And actually they might just be quiet like the rest of us, but they've just got time to post stuff.
Yeah. Well,
so it's like keeping consistent, isn't it?
I went off all social media because of that reason, not just for work. I kept my work Instagram, but for that same thing where you're scrolling and you're looking at whatever else doing, like, oh my God, look what they're up to. And it's just not true. It's like some false reality of what people's lives are actually like. And you do find yourself, don't you, comparing, like, well, how come I can't do that? Or how come I'm not doing that? So yeah, I got rid of it all. I don't have anything anymore apart from my work Instagram that I try to post on. But then again, is keeping up your portfolio and things. I'm so bad at getting shots off photographers, because usually you can't use the shot until months after you've shot it, because you can't use it until the client's used it. And by that point, you've done a load of other work, completely forgotten about it, and you're on to the next thing. So I've been putting more of an effort in recently to keep in contact with photographers and make sure that, especially if it's really nice stuff that we've done, make sure that I get the work off them and so that I can use it. Because it's like, I'll have a client and they'll ask, oh, can I see your portfolio? Have you got shots of something being drizzled on ice cream or whatever? And it's like, oh, I remember that shot I did that was beautiful. That was 8 months ago that I never got the photo for, and now I can't even remember who I shot it with. It's like, I trust me, I have done it before and I am really good at it, but I don't have the shot to show you.
That's so classic as well. And like, I can never remember, you're in the thick of it and you're like, right, I'm doing this, and you're so focused on that. I don't even remember to do much behind the scenes stuff. Yeah. Whereas some people I know who are really good at doing the behind the scenes stuff. And I'm like, I don't have the brain capacity left to then also remember 3 months down the line that I need to poke somebody's head and just go like, oh, can I have that image? Because I can't remember.
That's it. Well, you're a one-man band, aren't you? It's like you do all your own tax, all your own invoices, keeping in contact with clients, marketing. It's like, and you can, there's obviously agencies that you can sign up with, they'll help you with all that. But then you have quite a large cut of your incoming's gone. And a lot of clients are opposed to using agencies, aren't they? Just because of how much more expensive it is to use you if you're with an agency.
Yeah, I've never been with an agency, so I don't really know fully how they work. I know that they take a cut of what you earn and possibly add a bit to the client side as well. I'm not really sure how that works.
Yeah, well, but, I think there's a few that are a lot more relaxed, where they basically put you on their website and people can book you through their website if they need a few stars, and they will just put an extra percentage on top of what you earn, so you don't lose it, and you don't need any exclusivities or anything, which is really good. But you probably won't get as much work from them as you would, a fully exclusive agency.
Yeah, I think it's a delicate balance, because if you're used to having an agency and don't want to worry about doing like the invoice chasing, which can be a pain in the ass, then I think an agency is like great. And also an agency is really good if you're just starting out freelancing and don't really have a huge network. Yeah. But I'm too stubborn. I'm too stuck in my own ways to go with an agent now.
Well, I work with a food stylist who was, I mean, he's basically fully booked all the time these days, I think. But he stayed with an agency for ages, not because he needed the work, just because he didn't like doing the invoices and the admin side of things, which is fair enough. I mean, you know, if that's what you want to do, and then why not? I suppose. But I think people always just think that you're using the agency to get the work, but I think that's not always the case.
No, I agree with you. I think sometimes it's taken similarly to me paying for an accountant. It's like taking that one hat when you're self-employed and giving it to someone else, and just being like, I don't have the brain space for that. Yeah. Which I think's, you know, it's fine. Like, it also depends if you're. I think the one thing for me with agencies as well is they'd need to promote you.
Yeah.
Like, so that you could get more work or whatever. But like I say, I don't really know how they work fully, so it's. I can't be an expert in that because I don't really know.
Yeah, well, I've never been with an agency either. I went straight from the thing that was good for me at Iceland as well is that so they used Powerhouse for photographers. So they have basically everyone in house, but their photographers are supplied by Powerhouse, and so they'd have different photographers coming in all the time. So I'd kind of network with them. They had all the freelance food stylists coming in, so I'd kind of network with them as well. So it was a really good opportunity to just speak to people and make contacts with different people in the industry, basically. Because it, as you say, is very niche, isn't it? And it's everyone knows everyone kind of thing, don't they?
Yeah.
So you kind of need to just make friends with people, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like having that being friendly on set and having like a bit of banter, and you know, and then people remember the vibe you bring to set as well as your work, and that's kind of people are booking you for you rather not just your skills.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, there was we used to do the TV ads for Iceland when I was there, like the big ones, the summer ones and the Christmas ones, where it was a big production, and I'd be one of the assistants on it. So I'd work with two other food stylists. On the head food stylist on it, I mean, he was amazing, and he works down in London, and again, he's a kind of renowned food stylist. The biggest thing I learned from him was nothing to do with food styling, was almost how to approach people and how to be on set almost, because he just had like the attention of the room. Like everyone listened to what he said and they respected what he said and they had a good laugh with him. And I think if you can be good at food styling and bring that to the job as well, then I think you're going to do pretty well.
Yeah, I think you're right with the respect. When people respect your role, and you can still be friendly and have a bit of a laugh with people as well, then you've got people, and you can kind of work better almost, and kind of just say your opinion without it upsetting anybody, or you know. And that's really interesting that you learned that from him more so than food styling tips.
Yeah, I think I don't think people realise how important it is sometimes, and even just kind of maintaining like a calm atmosphere in the studio. Because if you're running around like a headless chicken and stressing out and huffing and puffing when things start going tits up, then I think it rubs off on everyone else, and then it becomes this really nasty atmosphere on set that no one enjoys. And if that's how the job turns out that you're on, and it's your first job with that client, they kind of remember that atmosphere and how much of an unenjoyable job it was, and then they probably won't want to work with you again, even if the food looked great.
Yeah, I agree with you, because sometimes I don't know if you get this as well, but sometimes you can walk in a studio and you just get hit with the vibe, because maybe there's full-timers who are not happy there, or there's moaning myrtles, or, you know, and it's really hard, especially if you're a bit empathetic as well, it's really hard to like shut them off and just be like, oh, let's change, let's have a positive day, let's go make a cup of tea, let's put some music on. And you work really hard to get the vibe up so that you can do better work as well. It can be quite exhausting, actually.
Yeah. I think that was when I went freelance. That was one of the things that kind of took me the longest to learn, was like, how to improve the atmosphere almost on set, or how not to make it worse. Works both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, massively. And also, like, we all have personal shit going on and it affects us all differently. I'm very much like, if I'm feeling a bit out of it, or like my endo's playing up or whatever, like I said to you when we were working together, I was like, my brain is gone today, so just bear with. And I think if you are open about it and vulnerable about it a little bit, people give you a bit more grace, and they're like, oh, it's fun, just having an off day, or you've got something going on, you're like, I've got something personal, so just give me 5, I'm going to go have a cup of tea, and then I'll reset myself.
That's another thing that I love in this creative world that we work in, is that most people are so relaxed about everything. I mean, we all put a graft in. Sometimes we work really long hours, but it's always, almost every studio I work in is such a nice, informal area. It's like, everyone wears what they want to wear. You can be expressive, because everyone's creatives that are working there, aren't they, really? So everyone's kind of got that same mindset. And I do think that as a whole, you have creative people, you have intellectual people, and I know there's crossovers in some areas, but I think everyone's kind of born with a creative mindset and attitude, or an intellectual mindset or attitude, and so it's nice to be surrounded by people with that same creative outlook.
Yeah, I agree. And you've hit the nail on the head, because that's me and my sister. I'm really creative and she's really intellectual.
Yeah, that's me and my sister. Down to a T.
She was great at maths, great at all the really academic stuff. And I'm like, I just make stuff look pretty.
Yeah. Yeah. She was 18 studying veterinary in uni, and I was 18 getting pissed in some kitchen somewhere, probably. Different people.
Sounds similar. Yeah. I used to go to London to visit my sister while she was at uni, so I could go out on the student uni night. And then people would come up to me and be like, what course are you doing? I'm like, I'm a visual merchandiser. I don't even live here.
So I'm a creative. You wouldn't understand. You're an intellectual.
Yeah. You just don't understand this vibe, hun. That's so funny. So part of your job is also recipe development, right?
Yep.
So speaking from someone who, I can read a recipe, execute a recipe, fine, but my other half can do this as well, where he just goes, oh, well, this and this works together, and he makes something amazing. How does your mind work to get these recipes developed? Do you get given like a brief where someone's like, we need, I don't know, sausage and mash elevated, and you're like, right, okay, well, I can do this, this, and this. How does it work?
Yeah, it's similar to how a shoot will work. So you'll be given a brief, and there will be a product usually that they want to base the recipes around. So it could be even something similar as Heinz. Say it was Heinz, and they were bringing out a new product, and they wanted to get some social content around some recipes where you can use their product just to help promote it, I suppose. And then so they'll give you the brief, they'll tell you what they want to get out of it, tell you what product they want to use. And then you do a lot of research as well, look online, take inspiration from other things. I love doing it because I get to work from home. Even though I love food styling, I love my job, my original passion was cooking for people to eat, cooking for things to taste nice, not necessarily shoving cocktail sticks and things and superglue and stuff. So as much as I love doing that, it is nice to then go back to doing some actual cooking, which is the same when I'm in France and I get to cook for guests and do things like that. So yeah, it's not too far off the process of how a shoot starts. I mean, you start with a brief, just like a shoot does, and you go from there.
Nice. It's just, for me, like I say, I can cook, but I'm not like, I'd rather follow a recipe, because when I don't, Nathan looks at me like, really, hun?
What is that smell?
Why are we now eating charcoal? I thought it was supposed to be something else.
You see, it's funny because I was always opposed to recipe books, because when I was younger, I kind of thought like it was cheating. Like, well, you're just following what someone else has done. Where's the creativeness in that? But as I've got older, I love it. I just love reading through recipe books now. I mean, I never usually follow a recipe to a T, but I love taking inspiration from other people, and then that filters down into the recipe development as well. I mean, it could have been something that I read in a recipe book or saw on Instagram, or months ago. Oh, that would really work with this, or that would really work with that. Even things like like Mob on Instagram, they're really good. Some of their recipes are great, and I don't know who does their. I'm sure they have a lot of people that do the recipe development, but they have some really nice stuff. So trying to keep on trend with things like that.
Yeah, there's so much food content out there now as well. I like following oh my days, Gaz Oakley.
Oh, okay, no,
and
I've heard of him, but
he's on YouTube, and then he's got a couple of books out, and he's a vegan chef, but he's got during the pandemic he went back to Wales and started an allotment. So he's now kind of trying to do the kind of full circle thing where he's growing stuff and then using what he's growing.
Farm to table stuff.
Yeah, that's it. And he's really interesting, and he's always got like different stuff that you wouldn't think of. Like for me, I look at the recipes, I'm like, oh, okay, and it takes like it's a whole process, because some of it's maybe not what I would. It's not like your usual spag bowl.
Yeah.
So it's quite nice to think, and you can see his passion for it, and his shots are really nice, and the books are lovely. I'll have to, next time we're working together, I'll bring one in, because they're so nice and like bright and colourful. And I also like the whole farm to table thing, and like he's learning. I like a bit of gardening, so that's showing my age, isn't it?
Well, I'm 25. I'd love to have an allotment.
Do it if you can. Do it.
I know,
they're so good.
My girlfriend Ella as well. She loves plants and flowers and anything like that. I'd love to do it. The furthest I've got at the moment is growing some herbs in a pot outside the back door. But you got to start somewhere, haven't you?
Yes, you have. Yeah. We had an allotment in Manchester when we lived in Manchester, and it was 30 meters by 9, which is like almost size of a swimming pool.
No, it was very big.
It was huge, and somebody had planted grass seed across it. And I swear the old guys who gave us that plot were pissing themselves. They're like, these guys are going to be, working their guts out, basically. So we got it to a certain point, and then we moved. So, but it's good fun. Like, it's nice to grow stuff and then go, oh, yes, we've got like, I don't know, cabbage or whatever off the land. And it's just... tastes better as well.
Eating cabbage for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, and giving everybody a cabbage as well, or pumpkins or whatever.
That's what we've done. We've got a big apple tree in the garden, and we've got so many apples off it this year. And it's like, I hate food waste and stuff like that. It's like, we need to use all these apples. So we were having some new apple cake or apple pudding or apple dessert like every other day, and my girlfriend's like, I'm so fed up of cooked apple. It's like all we were eating for like a month straight. And I did I stewed loads of them down and had a massive batch and put them in tubs and froze them. I'm like just about finishing up on them now.
Oh my God.
I've just been having apple porridge every morning for the past 3 months.
At least you're using them though.
Exactly, yeah. And we did give loads away as well to my sister and my nan and stuff like that.
Yeah, you've got to. We ended up with I think it was marrows or courgettes. We ended up with loads.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to grow really well, aren't they?
They just got huge. I was sending my grandma and my granddad, when he was alive, was a farmer. So I was sending pictures of all these fruits and veg to my grandma, and she's like, well, you can do this, and send me these recipes from the 60s. And it was hollow out your marrow and fill it with minced beef or something.
So, yeah, I feel like this conversation is a good insight into creative minds. How have we ended up talking about hollowing out marrows and filling it with minced beef?
Welcome to my brain,
Yeah.
dear. This is what it is. I just go off on tangents, but this is exactly how creative brains work.
Yeah.
You go off on tangents, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I've had an idea for this.
Yeah.
And then like my other half can't keep up with me sometimes because he's like, sorry, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you're going to see in a couple months' time my recipe development for marrow, and I'm going to have a stuffed marrow with minced beef. It's like, oh yeah, I told you that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I've got the recipe somewhere. I can send it to you if you want.
Send it over.
You might have to decipher it from the WhatsApp because I don't think there was any punctuation in there from my grandma. She's so funny. So I've got one other. I'm going to bring us back slightly on track, but I've got one last question for you, and you can answer it whichever way you want, creatively, personally, however you want. But what inspires you?
That's a very good question. Well, I think my mum originally. I mean, she was the one who got me into the industry. I think I just have a major passion for food, and I don't know where it came from necessarily. But it's definitely there, and I definitely have a very obsessive personality where I get majorly obsessed about things, and things kind of come and go. But food's always been there. I've just always been obsessed with it. Like, if it doesn't seem like work to me, even though it is. So yeah, I think just looking at other people that I work with as well, and more experienced food stylists, and the type of jobs that they get on, and just how beautiful some of the work looks, and it's just, I feel like I've always got something to aspire to, I suppose.
Oh, that's such a lovely answer. It's so nice.
Was that good? Was that cute enough?
Yeah. Yeah, it was cute enough. I think you hit the cute maxometer when you said it was your mum.
So I went for a wholesome answer there.
Yeah, you did. I like it. I like it.
I think she would have shouted at me if I didn't say it was her. So.
Should have just been like, out.
Yeah, that's enough now. I taught you everything you know.
Oh, well, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I've really enjoyed chatting to you, and I'm glad we've had this chat and all the tangents. I hope to see a marrow carved out with minced beef on the inside.
I've got a private mission now to get a marrow recipe somewhere on my Instagram.
Yeah, please do, because I'll be sending that straight to my grandma.
We'll do some test shoots and we'll get all the marrow recipes going.
Yeah, that's it. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what we need to do, a marrow test. Just have them all lined up.
Marrow recipe book coming out soon.
Don't tempt this creative mind. I've been bored.
Brilliant.
Well, thank you so much.
Yep, no worries. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please rate, follow and share, as it really helps this little podcast out. And if you have found value in the podcast and you have the means to, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. This will help keep the podcast going. Join me next week for another fantastic guest. Bye!